Welcome to Pirate Living Podcast. We're your hosts, Karan and Kristen. On this podcast, we are highlighting ordinary people living extraordinary lives. These are pirates who take small, bold actions daily to create social change. Pirate life is all about rebelling and breaking the rules for good. Creating lasting social change starts by first breaking our inner rules. After all, the hardest rules to break are your own. The pirates we highlight have dedicated themselves to creating good trouble.
Today on our podcast, we are highlighting Lance Davis and Sean Lazio. Lance is a doctor of chiropractic, but don't call him doctor, a coach of veterans, my cohort in throwing awesome pirate parties, and my husband. Sean is a wizard, an Army veteran, and an integration coach who guides men and women to create the life they desire. Together, Lance and Sean are the founder and co-founder of The Rising Warrior, a program that guides veterans to moving from stuck to flourish. Welcome. We're glad you're here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Wonderful intro.
Yeah, I feel special.
You are.
You are a wizard, Sean.
Thank you. Stepping into that more.
Yeah, good.
Good. So thank you both for being on our podcast today. We're happy to have you here to talk with us. You both have had a journey along your path in becoming pirate. We'd love to hear your tales about your journeys separately and then also what brought you together. Rock, paper, scissors. Who goes first?
Lance,
Sean.
you go. You're the oldest.
Okay. I identify as a 24-year-old. All right. I've practiced this many times. So as Kristen said, I'm an Army veteran. I spent 5 years in the Army infantry. I had 2 tours, 1 year in Iraq, 1 year in Afghanistan. I got out in 2009. And when I got out, I cut all ties with the military. I wanted nothing to do with anybody, anything military related. And at that point, I was the alpha male. There was nothing wrong with me. I was good. And man, Karan, you saying that we can't use "and" before we got on the show. Now it's okay. A little inside joke there, everybody. So there was nothing wrong with me in my mind. I quickly realized that, well, okay, maybe there was something not perfect about what was going on in my life. I didn't know where to start. And when I say not perfect, I got labeled with the label of PTSD. And I didn't know where to start with that. So I started with the VA. And very quickly, I realized that the VA was not for me. They weren't helping me. They weren't helping the root cause. So that's when I started diving down the rabbit hole of self-development, diet, head injuries or traumatic brain injuries. I went everywhere. I searched everything. And I ended up with finding 2 very key things that helped me, and now I get to share with other veterans. I learned the benefits of proper and precise language and simply emotions. And that's what Sean and I get to do and share with other veterans. And that's where I am today, kicking ass, taking names.
So I just want to ask you a question. So when you talk about emotions, what do you mean? Like actually feeling them, allowing yourself to feeling them? How does that tie in exactly?
Yes and yes. Feeling them and acknowledging them. Many males, this might be new to everybody, probably not. Males want to avoid emotion. Like, we don't want to cry. It's scary cry. And many of the problems that are, in my opinion, that men and veterans specifically are dealing with are emotions that they just are afraid to feel. I've talked to some badass motherfuckers, guys that are kicking down doors and shooting people literally in the face and they rather throw hundreds of pounds on their back and run into a firefight instead of talking about their emotions. So yes, feeling, acknowledging.
Gotcha.
Sean,
Yeah. So similarly, I joined the military, joined the Army. I did this right out of high school, and that's really when the journey for me began. And I had no idea what was going on. I just knew that about a year prior to enlisting, I was a senior in high school when I enlisted, and there was a part of me that speaking to me, and I didn't know it was speaking to me until recently. And this part was like, hey, there's something more out there. Go try it out. Like, all your friends are going to college, and it just didn't seem like the right move. I didn't get any scholarships. And so I was like, cool, I've had this affinity for the military. I imagine I'm going to go experience stuff that I cannot experience anywhere else in life. And it set me down the growth journey without even recognizing it. And so did 3.5 years, did a deployment to Afghanistan as well. Life-changing experience, hands down. And got out, decided it's time to go to school, or that I wanted to go to school. And I wanted to play baseball again. That was my life growing up. And so I got the opportunity to do both. It was my first time really getting out of my environment outside of actually leaving for the military. So I chose not to go back to Southern California, where I was born and raised. And so I ended up in Michigan for about 7 or 8 years. And coming out of the military, I was experiencing higher levels of disconnection everywhere in my life, because I had this story that if you weren't in the military and you're not a veteran, like, you don't understand and you don't get me. And so it was hard for me to want to open up. And what didn't help was people, when they found out that I was in the Army and I recently got back from a deployment, the conversation went to like, oh, I wonder if this guy's fucked up, because they knew I was in a combat job, and I'd seen that stuff. And so I found it super interesting. It was also very frustrating. And what it did for me was it brought up a lot of discomfort. And similar to Lance, I had a bad experience with the VA before I even got out. As I was exiting, I was struggling with sleep. And so I went and talked to, one of the doctors, and within 10 minutes, he was already prescribing me antidepressants. And so I thought maybe I would get some sleeping pills. And so I looked at the information label, noticed that it was a, antidepressant, started noticing all the possible side effects. And I was like, absolutely not. I would I know too many people who are stuck in the loop doing this. And so I'll figure it out on my own. Like, I was perfectly content to do that. And so that led me down the rabbit hole, which led me to programs like Training Camp for the Soul, Enlifted, The Strong Coach, other personal development programs, different podcasts, plant medicines. Like, I was all in on it. And so, yeah, that was the trajectory of my path. And then within my first year of being in college, so end of 2012 into 2013, I ended up purchasing a gym off of who was a friend at the time. Had no aspirations of being a coach or a business owner, and the opportunity presented itself. And after a conversation with my parents, I went along with it, and it was one of the best decisions that I ever made. Like, the amount of growth that I've experienced from that is exponential. And so very grateful for that. And I just closed that chapter of my life about 3 months ago. So officially sold the gym and decided to go out on a nomadic adventure. So to be a real pirate out on the seas, which isn't really water, it's all land. And I'm a mountain guy anyway, so we'll figure it out.
Mountain pirate. It's fine.
I'm a mountain pirate. Yeah. We're starting a new label. We're mountain pirates. So yeah, that was my journey. And to speak into something that Lance said real quick, he talked about these feelings and emotions. As I was reflecting when he said that, like, there was a very huge turning point for me when I got ready to ship off for basic training. I had a going away party, and a friend was sitting with me, and I knew I signed up for a combat job. I knew I was going to deploy. Like, it was just a matter of when. And so one of my friends who was sitting with me expressed her concerns, and she started crying. She's like, I'm legitimately afraid that something's going to happen, when you deploy. And without even thinking about it, like, this message came through of like, oh, you don't need to worry about it. Like, I know I'm going to be okay. I know I'm meant to do something more. Like, that came through at the ripe age of 18, and I thought nothing of it. It was just like, oh, that was weird. And like, I was just able to make that connection of like, oh, hey, that was that whole feeling thing that you actually allowed to come in. And on the other side of that was the message that needed to be delivered. And so that is one aspect of like really listening to your emotions and feeling them. So yeah, it's fun stuff. So yeah, now Lance and I are doing the Rising Warrior, and yeah, we get to help other veterans. And it's been a blast. We're in our beta group right now, really enjoying it.
That's cool. So how did you and Lance get together?
I like telling the story. Are you
Okay?
What
you okay
brought
with that,
you?
Lance?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you have this one.
Please interject as you
Yes.
feel necessary.
Go for it.
So yeah, Lance and I met by proxy through the Strong Coach. He was told to reach out to me, knowing that I was a veteran, had been through TCS, and so as he mentions, when he tells it, like, he was essentially calling to do a client interview, to get more information about myself as well. And so that was
calling people.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and so that was the beginning of it. And what we later found out was, when Lance and Kristen went to Training Camp for the Soul, I was supposed to be at that retreat.
Mhm.
And something happened in my life that took me away, and I made a decision to stay back. And like, life really changed after that. And it's also cool that we got to meet. So that was the beginning of it. And then it was through Enlifted, one of the other programs that we did, that we stayed in contact. We started a veterans group within that. And then I believe, was it before or after that when we met up in August?
Dude, I
Was
don't
it slightly
know.
before? I think it was slightly before.
Everything just happened at once.
Yeah, a lot has transpired over this last year.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
we met in person August of 2020 at a men's retreat, and yeah, connected there. Got to realize that I knew his brother, who lived in Michigan, which was super crazy. Like, had no idea. Been to his brother's gym and talked with him, and then we hopped on
He
a
was
call.
also a veteran.
Yes, correct. Yeah, lots of stories being shared there, and no connection until that time. So yeah, then we met up for an Enlifted group call for veterans, and after that call, he reached out, had some really kind words to say, which was also very confusing to me. Something along the lines of like, "Hey man, like, I see the strength within you, like, lean into it," and wasn't expecting it. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll listen. I'll assume he's right. And so I started to lean into that. And then fast forward a couple months, we somehow there was a whisper on the wind that brought a group of us to Portland.
Well, at this point, I've only met you in person once in August.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, you reached out and wanted to stay at our house. And I was like, all right, sure, why not?
It was our friend Benjoy was the one that actually reached out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. So yeah, that we ended up in Portland for New Year's, which very unexpected. I had thought Oregon, thinking Southern Oregon. Turns out we end up in Portland, and we have a great time. We get to connect there. I was supposed to be down in Southern Oregon for a couple months with a friend. I ended up spending pretty much 4 or more weeks with Lance and Kristen, hopping between the garage, which was great. And there may or may not have been a shed stay in there as well. And I say that with no judgment because it was my choice. Like, I was totally okay with it.
Was the garage too good, or what?
The garage was preoccupied. I had lost my spot.
Nah.
So there was the garage was occupied, didn't have the space for it, so I ended up hanging out in the shed for a couple days, which was great. Like, I just needed a place to sleep anyways. So anyways, to be honest, I was very drawn away from working with veterans. And so in the few times that Lance and I connected,
y'all are. It's weird.
Yeah, we're starting to see it's part of the process. It's weird. But yeah, during our connection, Lance pointed out, damn near every time, like, hey man, like, I think you should work with, like, you're the perfect fit to work with veterans. And I just resisted. And
At
so,
which you resist.
persists. Yeah. So fast forward to, I think it was about early February, after we'd spent a couple of weeks. I was down in Selma, then I came back up to Portland, hung out for a few days, and it became very clear to me. I was like, you know what? This is worth it, because like I saw what Lance was doing. I saw the drive that he had behind it. And, knowing that we had a shared language, and he was really helped me. He was really able to help me see how simple this could be and how difficult I was making it by painting this huge picture of what I thought it needed to be, and how it was going to look. And like, he helped me really see how simple it was. And so I was like, you know what? I trust him. Like that working relationship was there. Like, we were thinking a lot of the same things, saying a lot of the same things. Like, it was just, you know what, this is 100% worth a shot. And I'm incredibly grateful that he did, because on the other side of this already, we're 3 weeks into our beta program, and the complete perspective shift. And it's
complete perspective shift for you, or
for me. And I imagine for those going through the program as well already.
3 weeks, and these guys are just like, you can see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? What?
So tell us about the program then. So how long is it? Like, how is it structured? Like, what are you guys doing?
I've worked with veterans one-on-one, and this was a while ago. I don't even know time anymore. Again, I'll restate, I'm running on caffeine and very little sleep. So
excuses.
I know, excuses.
Was it in the pre-COVID times or the post-COVID times?
Pre-COVID times.
Oh, so way back. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, we're already at that point where like way back is pre-COVID.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
The olden times.
Yeah, the good old days. So I worked with veterans on a one-on-one basis, and I was getting good results. And I realized that, this is great, and there are way too many individuals out there for me to do this one-on-one. So I did a group project, and I was like, hey, this is cool. And then I tried to do another group project and another group project. I've had like 4 betas in a group project, and now it's another beta because it's Sean and I. And I already forgot your question.
What are we doing with the program?
Yeah.
What are we doing with the program?
Yeah. What is it? What are we doing?
What is the aim? What's the aim?
Tentatively, right now, it's an 8-week group project. And our goal is to help veterans help veterans. We are giving them our goal, and what we're doing is giving them the tools to A, help themselves, and then B, turn around and help others. My goal is to make us obsolete.
Yeah.
Horrible business idea. Never make yourselves obsolete as a business. Google, don't listen to me.
And so, okay, with this work that you're doing, like, what social rebellion are you looking to start here with your work?
Oh man. The stigma about veterans and the stories that come along with that. And I mentioned earlier that I ran into people who expected me to be fucked up from coming back from a deployment. And like, how does that feel as someone on the receiving end of that, coming back into society, that all of a sudden, the stories they don't understand, they don't have the context, right? And there's so much disconnect. And so that is by far one of the things that I'm looking to do is to break the stigma around what it like, how veterans are viewed, right, in society. And also, I'll go out on a limb on this one. And Lance, I'm curious your thoughts on this as well.
Ooh, live.
Yeah, I'm going there, guys. To break the individual's sense of what it means to be a veteran, and the story around being a veteran, and the identity of being a veteran, because something that both Lance and I have experienced, and the more that we get out there and we find others who have gone down this similar journey, is one of the biggest pieces of it is actually letting go of the identity of being a veteran. which is so hard to do because there's so much wrapped up in like what it means to serve your country and like patriotism and like all this other stuff. And so like, man, we get put into this box, and that box can be so heavy and just lots of pressure that comes along with that. And so, yeah, on an individual basis is helping veterans drop the identity of being a veteran.
I'm going to elaborate on this.
Yes.
I don't know about you, Karan, up in Canada, but here in the States, veterans, they stick out like a sore thumb.
How so?
The way they dress, the way they walk, the way they talk.
Stickers, the clothes they wear,
flags on their hats, patches, all this stuff. And this is my opinion, and I encourage somebody to rebuttal it if you want. I believe you have to let that all go. You have to get rid of that, move past it. Like Sean was saying, you need to shed that identity. And then once you shed that identity, you can go back to it.
So it sounds like you guys are kind of erasing like programming or indoctrination that happens in the military.
Beautiful.
So that you can actually reintegrate back into society.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Podcast done.
Good job, guys. You guys are awesome. Love
Nailed
you.
it.
Peace out.
Yeah, that was great, Karan.
All right.
Yeah, I love the word choice there, and what that brings to mind is something that Lance and I have talked about is this is the journey to discovering ourselves after separating the military. So that's the lens in which we are now viewing it from, which makes a lot more sense where we're at now.
Yeah, when you're in the military, you're told what to do, what to think, how to feel. Everything is planned out for you. And then you get to the civilian world and you're like, oh, shit, I have a new identity. I have to recalibrate. And that's why so many people hang on to that. They just hang on to this identity of the flags on their hat, their patches and all this. And yeah, you need to let it go.
Yeah, and it's a chance to, rediscover who you are and what you want. And that's a big part of being a pirate that we talk about often is asking yourself, what do you really want? And it sounds like that's what you're guiding people to rediscover. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, that is 100% part of the process. Learning what it is that you want on a fundamental level instead of what you imagine you want because of what society says or what others around you say. So
see what you did there, Sean.
Words.
Inside joke.
So you guys are literally taking people from the Navy and turning them into pirates.
That's what I was thinking too.
Oh my God, that is so good.
Yes, we're making pirates out of. Holy crap!
Bro.
So yes,
Man.
so you guys, we all know about how the Navy back in the day was horrible, and what pirates did was stole people from the Royal Navy and made them into pirates. Hey, Sean, high five.
Dude. Oh, for
Thank
those,
you, Karan.
the mind-blowing moment just happened.
But I want to hear the noise, Sean. The mind-blowing noise.
It might be a little too high-pitched for this.
Yeah.
I really thought about it. Like, oh, man, Karan, that was such a good distinction.
Sean, you haven't had a
Pleasure.
good mind-blowing moment in a while around me, so that's a good one. Thank you, Karan.
Yeah, I'm getting more grounded.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let Kristen talk now. I'm feel spent.
she's
I'm done.
done.
Mic drop.
She's done too many mic drops.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the same thing about how the Navy, you're taking people directly from there. Like some of them literally the Navy. And turning them into pirates by getting them to start questioning and sitting with those emotions. And you're even encouraging them to lean into discomfort in order to be able to find their identity and who they are. So what would you say, or what is your opinion on what's the most uncomfortable question that someone could ask themselves as they're looking to change their identity?
most uncomfortable question in those who are seeking to change their identity.
Well, we can
How-
hit pause on the recording if you need
No,
some time.
I'm going to go with what I feel. That question is, how does that feel? And where do you feel it? For those that are listening and don't understand, emotions, energy in motion, emotions and feelings present themselves in the body. And some people might be thinking, what the hell are you talking about, you goddamn hippie? Example, when you're sad, your eyes water. They're called tears. When you're angry, your blood pressure rises. When you're anxious, your heart rate speeds up. Like, these emotions present themselves in the body. So how does that feel, and where are you feeling it?
Mm-hmm. What about you, Sean?
All right. So I was typing this out to make sense of it. So the most uncomfortable question that I would ask someone, the thing that comes to mind, are you willing to accept that you are the one thing that's been holding yourself back from having what it is that you want in life?
And
So
have you answered that question for yourself?
absolutely. And that was by far one of the most uncomfortable moments, was the moment I realized that I was literally the thing that was standing in the way from all of the things that it was that I wanted. And that can be, it's not always, it can be, and most often is, one of the hardest things to come to terms with, because we live in a society that wants to project and blame all over the place, cancel culture, like you name it. And it's always your fault, their fault, his fault. It's the big brother's fault. It's the government's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's my parents' fault. And most people rarely take the finger and they point it back at themselves and be like, all right, I'm going to get real with myself. Where am I to blame in all of this? And that's the moment when you can accept that life begins to change. And that is the type of stuff that Lance and I are essentially working towards, not only with the veterans, also within our groups, with any of these support conversations, one-on-one coaching outside of veterans, like I said. And it's it's teaching them the tools to be able to be okay with that, and to know that life's going to be okay. Like, you're not a piece of shit because we're operating within the system, and you now have awareness around it. It is that, hey, you now have awareness around it. Like, what a gift. And it's okay that it's uncomfortable. It's okay if you want to cry, if you're mad, you're sad, frustrated, shame, guilt, whatever comes up, it's all perfect, and you can be with it. So yeah, really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's key for so many of us in our personal development journey, whether you're a veteran or, like you said, out if you're not, is really just taking accountability for your life. And I remember when I first started, I also did the Strong Coach program with you guys, and yeah, projecting all over the place, projecting over everybody, right? And it's the moment that you take accountability and no longer take a passive role or play the victim in your own life, that you can actually start to make changes. And people have trauma, we're talking about whether that be trauma with a capital T or, just traumas in life. And we still get to choose what we do with the rest of our life. And I wasn't in the military, but I was a police officer, and I've seen, a lot of, shit as a police officer. And it really was doing this work. And you mentioned Benjoy. We did some one-on-one coaching with him, and really diving into those stories and releasing the things that we're holding back from that identity. And, it was to the point that, 10 years out of the policing, and bringing this back to what you guys said, 10 years out of policing, and my badge number was still like my pin on everything, right? And it's
What's
not
your
now.
badge number?
It's not now, and I don't have much money, so good luck. But releasing that identity of being, Detective Constable Adderley, which was so far in the past. I've moved countries since then. Yeah, I was still clinging on to it. So I love what you guys say about releasing that old identity in order to move forward and take accountability in your life. So what you guys say really resonates with me there.
May I make an observation?
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of, so I'm a chiropractor, as Kristen stated, and I see a lot of police officers and firefighters come through my doors and I treat them. And they like to, what's the word I'm looking for? They like to short themselves or discount themselves. They like to discount themselves in what they experience and what's going on. Many times veterans get all the glory for PTSD. When in reality, if you have 5 deployments, 5 years overseas, whatever, police and first responders see this shit every day in and out. And they don't get any recognition. Well, they do, but they don't get enough recognition. So like you said, I was only a police officer. Well, you don't get called up for somebody to give you praise and give you a pie. You get called up to see the shit every day. So I really dislike it when first responders, police, firefighters, EMS say, I'm just this. Well, you guys see a lot of shit. And one of my goals is to start working with them because, they discount a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, and that rings true. Most of the men, my father, my uncles, are firefighters or were firefighters, even my cousins now. And one of the big turning points for me in the Strong Coach program was when we got to really dive into the connection between service and sacrifice. And I'm wondering if that is something that you get to address with your veterans, and how do you separate the idea of serving without actually sacrificing?
I don't know if, we have the ability to do that. I don't know if that's in our direct curriculum, Sean.
It is through the lens of you need to fill your own cup up first.
Yeah. And to elaborate on people listening, service and sacrifice. A military, they believe they have to be of sacrifice, whether most of the time it's sacrificing their own time, sacrificing their own well-being to be of service. In the military, there's a phrase that goes, mission then me. So the mission always comes first. And then the men that work under you come second. And then if you're lucky, at the end of the day, if you have 5 minutes, you get to put yourself first. Unfortunately, you've learned not to put any effort into yourself. So you never put yourself first. You're always burned out. You're always pouring from an empty cup. So yes, there's a collapsed distinction between service and sacrifice. Huge.
Yeah. I echo what Lance said. And yes, at least with this group, we haven't had that specific conversation yet. I do love it though, that gives us a lot of awareness of really bringing it up, because I imagine that is where they're at. And actually, someone that I was working with spoke right into that of, talking about not being able to sleep and like taking on all the tasks and doing all the chores and well, nobody else will do it. And there's, all these different stories. And in reality, he's suffering because he's sacrificing himself, and he doesn't even have clarity on why he's doing it. It's just, this is my job, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm like, okay. Like, yeah, that's right. This is where it begins, right? Like it has to start somewhere. And, those are some of the top moments that we see that bring people to to really want to change is that story, right? Sacrificing, right? Because the more that we sacrifice of ourselves, especially when there isn't a clear goal or a clear direction and it's just expected of us, like, yeah, we begin to experience way more discomfort because there's that part of ourselves that's trying to wake us up and like knocking on the door. It's like, hey, if you don't pay attention to me, I'm going to make life real interesting for you. And we're just like, nope, shut up. I don't need time for me. I don't need to take care of myself. And then all of a sudden it explodes, and you're left with an injury or a tragic situation, or what we would call a wake up call in life. Something that we teach is that you have 3 phases of learning. And the first phase is the tickle. So it's someone's tickling you with a feather. It's like, hey, I'm over here. Pay attention to me. And you're just like, oh, whatever. And then the next phase is the brick. So you get punched in the face. You're like, okay, I can see this a little bit more clearly now. And there's also still that, like, but I don't have to do anything quite yet. And then the third stage is you get hit by the Mack truck. And at that point, you have no other choice but to listen to whatever the message is. And so, yeah, the service versus sacrifice is one of the top ones that we see that gets people to that point. So super interesting.
And do you have your pivotal moment or your brick moment that you'd like to share with us for your journey?
Oh, man. Yeah. One that comes to mind was, so just for a little bit of context, like growing up, once I joined the military, I made the decision to join the military. There was that sense of like, okay, there's something more. And so I had it in the back of my head. And as I went through the military, very eye-opening moment. But it wasn't until afterwards. And the reason why was because like I came back from my deployment with this whole new perspective of like, wow, like I have like the way I showed up in life was different. When you almost die and on a daily basis, you don't know what's going to happen, right? This is why this also ties into what Lance said about law enforcement and EMT firefighter. It's like that's a daily thing, and so how do you separate that in your experience? So I came back with this completely new mindset, and I know that in that process, I was losing friends, and there was a lot of conversations going on that just didn't make sense. I'm like, hey, I want to come see you, and I would get excuses. Oh, I don't have the money, or I don't have the time. And, me having just experienced like, well, I almost just died, 100 times over this last year. Like I'll spot you. Like you want to take the day off of work, I'll pay your day. Like that's where my mindset was. And so I met a lot of resistance in that. And then it was back in about 2014 when it really came to a head. And I was dating a girl at the time. I just started running my gym. So that was a new experience, and there's a lot of adrenaline going with that. And then I started dating this girl, and there was a moment where we experienced this huge disconnect, and we had this huge argument, and it was this overwhelming sensation that came over me that I couldn't explain. I felt so bad. Like my thoughts went very dark. Like I thought I was this horrible person. And like, so my thoughts started to go down that road of like, well, what's the point of even being here? You're clearly letting people down. That was the brick. And then that's what really started me. Like I made a shift, and then I attended training camp for the soul in 2018. So there was a big gap in there where I was riding the wave pretty good. There was a lot of things on the up. And then once again, it was another lady. 2019, we split up. And this was 1 year after I'd done this retreat that changed my life. And I still wasn't able to really integrate what I had learned. And so that's when the Mack truck hit me. We split, and then life to me, like the story I was in was that life fell apart. My business was going down. She left. I was down at the lowest point that I'd ever hit. And, I came to a point where I gave myself 2 options. Option 1, I go into my room and this ends, or option 2 is I hop on the phone and I do something about this. And so like, that was the Mack truck moment for me. And like, honestly and truly, life since that moment has forever changed. And having the tools that Lance and I are talking about and what we're looking to provide with others, like those were the exact things that helped me out of that situation, because I wasn't paying attention to the feather, I wasn't paying attention to the few pricks that I got hit with. I was still playing the victim. I was 100% caught in the victim mentality, in the story of like, this is not my fault, this is outside of my control, and I took that for a ride. So that's allowed me to be where I am at now, and I'm super grateful for, like I said, to have those tools. And but that was my Mack truck moment. It's the ladies.
What about you, Lance?
What was the question again?
What was your Mack truck moment? Was there like a pivotal moment when you returned that started this journey?
I don't believe it was a Mack. There wasn't one like moment. It was a slow progress. I was going to school to become a chiropractor, and one of my buddies, he was Coast Guard, and he spent 3 years on the beaches of Costa Rica doing nothing. And when he got out, he got like 70% disability, which means the government looks at medical records and all this stuff and says, oh, we screwed you up. Here's some money. We think you 70% disabled. When I got out, I didn't get any disability. And he looked at me, he's like, dude, you've been deployed, you jumped out of airplanes, all this, crazy stuff. He's like, you need to get your disability reassessed. And that started the whole process. Mind you, like I said previously, there was nothing wrong with me in my eyes. I ended up going to a psychiatrist and getting assessed for PTSD. He asked me all these questions, and I walked out like, holy shit, maybe there is something wrong with me. And damn him, I was fine before that. He brought light to some faults in my life. So thank you, whoever the hell you are. And no, thank you. And that's, I imagine I had the problems before, the just seething anger towards everybody. And that's a projection, seething anger towards myself. And that for years that grew. And then there were the suicidal ideations, which is a weird thing, at least for me and other veterans I've talked to. They don't necessarily want to pull the trigger. They're just feeling better off not being alive. And now I look back, and it's because these weird feelings going on in their body, and they don't know what the fuck's going on, and they're afraid to acknowledge them. So there was no significant one Mack truck. It feels more like there was just a continual Mack truck just running over me.
Just dragging you.
Just dragging you behind.
Freightliner. So that's what led me to jumping down the rabbit hole of not VA.
And so being a pirate is all about taking small, bold actions. So what small, bold actions have you taken to get you to where you are today? After you got hit by the Mack trucks, what are some of those bold actions, or that you're taking now?
Go ahead, Sean. Dibs. You first.
Yeah. So, God, there's a lot. The first thing that comes to mind is I started taking time for myself. And like, that was really bold for me, because I had the story of put others first. And I was the type that would endure and show up for other people, even though I was struggling, and to, be the light for them and to help them see. And all the same time, I wasn't taking my own advice. And so like one of the smallest, like what I would say small in this context was, like taking time for myself. So starting to say no. When I knew it was a no, and, instead of saying yes, because I felt obligated to show up or to be there to do something. And then, that transpired over a couple years into me getting to the point where I finally accepted that I didn't want my gym anymore. I didn't want to coach CrossFit. I didn't want to be a CrossFit gym owner anymore. And that was very difficult because it was such a huge part of my life. And so the bold action was like, one, accepting it, and two, following through on it. And this was just August of last year when I got to the point and I said, you know what, like I am okay if my business tanks, so I can go take this month or two off. And I was feeling called to come out to the mountains. And so started with a men's retreat in Colorado, got to backpack for a couple of weeks from Colorado to Wyoming to Yellowstone, up into Glacier National Park, and then back down to Utah outside of Salt Lake City. And then that led to a month in Idaho with some friends of mine. And yeah, that was a huge step for me. And to like be okay telling my coaches like, hey, you know what? Like, I got to do this. Like, this is for me. Like, the mountains are calling. And, paying someone to manage the gym for that time while I was gone. And then, ultimately sticking by that decision to sell, even though I didn't have another job lined up. I didn't have any other income coming in. Like, the money stories and the fear, the survival mode went through the roof. And yeah, I was able to see that and be like, yeah, it's okay. Like, yeah, I admit I am fucking terrified to walk away from what has been my life for the last 7.5 years and to go live out of my car, camping and joining up with people at Airbnbs for whoever knows how long, like who knows how long, and for how long of a duration we're going to stay there. Like, yeah, it was absolutely terrifying. And I'm still going to do it because like, this is what my heart wants. So that was the bold action, following my heart.
Yeah, I like that. What about you, Lance?
I'm going to get out from under the Mack truck. I'm going to get in the Mack truck and I'm going to toot my own horn. Recognizing that I am a legitimate badass. Shedding that victim mentality of woe is me, everybody's against me, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, and realizing that I'm fucking awesome, and then living it. Toot toot. And then just to talk about like what Sean was talking about, I first met him in August when he first started this journey. And I was like, holy shit, you're selling your gym and I don't think you were selling your gym at that point. You were just,
I was talking about it.
And then you're just going to go. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
What he wanted to say is that's pretty stupid.
No, I thought I knew a little bit jealous. I knew a little bit what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. And then
I was gonna say it's bold. Yeah, it's definitely bold.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a small bold step. That's the leap. And then I've spent some time with him and the people that they go around. I fucking hate it. I could not do that. I can do it. I choose not to. It's very uncomfortable. I like routine. I like quote unquote safety.
So bold action then, Lance, was you coming out for 4 days.
Yeah,
and living the chaotic lifestyle.
Not doing that again.
Yes, you
guys can all come here.
Well, and speaking of coming this way, one of my favorite pirate quotes has to do with like, if you want to save the world, you have to throw better parties than those trying to destroy it. So part of how we met you, Sean, too, Lance and I, was through party. And with that, we started asking questions too about throwing better parties. So would you two like to elaborate on what you're doing, what your plan is to take over the world by throwing better parties?
Personally, I have no idea.
I have ideas.
I mean, I have ideas, but if anybody's listening, that's part of this, I apologize. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll come straight out and admit it. No clue what I'm doing. I'm winging it. So far, so good.
Yeah. This is this is something that I had my eye on since. I would say this actually started for me early 2020. We went to Envision Fest and got to experience a music festival, like the full experience. Had the private cabana because a friend of a friend was there, so it really opened my eyes to like how magical these coming togethers were. And I was like, wow, I wonder if I can experience that again. And then it happened in August. It's like, holy shit, I wonder if this is gonna happen again. And it happened again in September. And then when we had the house in October, like the entire month we were there, like we were having these moments. And it wasn't even us consciously like, yo, let's get together and throw a party. It was like, hey, let's get together and connect. And then it happened again in December. And then all of a sudden New Year's rolls around. I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. And so it's been on the forefront of my mind. And, you know, the things that come to mind is one, have fun. Like drop status quo, drop the expectations and what it should be, and have fucking fun. Like that is such a main staple in how I view this, is that a lot of this change that is happening, a lot of the growth, a lot of the healing, a lot of the transformational experiences is all coming as a result because we're coming together to have fun and to connect. And so that is one main component of it. And I want to give a huge shout out to a friend of ours, Grant, who introduced the hacky sack back into our group. And so my bold plan of partying is that we're actually going to throw a festival where hacky sack is one of the main staples, and we're going to have at least 2 or 3 awesome DJs, and it's going to be an amazing event, and it's going to be focused around hacky sack. And the reason why I say that is because ever since he introduced it to us, back in when we're all in Southern Oregon hanging out in a little bit, he actually gifted me my first hacky sack as he left Portland.
Sneaky bastard.
We were all coming off of Lance's birthday party, which we crushed. And he stays a couple days, and all of a sudden he leaves. I get this text. I open the door, and he gifted me a hacky sack and left it on the porch. And I was like, man, this is like amazing. Like to be gifted anything like that, because I knew how much he held the hacky sack in reverence. Now, not necessarily in reverence, but like it was a huge part of his thing. Like it's something that he really enjoyed. And so to receive that gift from him was awesome. And then every experience that we've had since, like we get lost for sometimes hours literally playing hacky sack. And it's been one of the most beautiful experiences that I've gotten to witness, especially when someone new comes into the circle and they've never played before and they show up and give 0 fucks and they try. And all of a sudden we get the first hack, which is when everyone around the circle participates in kicking it and making sure that it doesn't touch the ground. Like we lose our minds over that. And it is so fun. Or like when someone learns how to get their first stall, or they use their like non-dominant leg, like people are going bonkers and celebrating this shit. And as a result of that, like we're having those same experiences. And so like at the micro level, it's even happening. So yeah, we're going to take over the world with hacky sacks.
You guys remind me of my youth.
Yeah.
Back in the olden days.
Oh yeah.
Hacky sacks. This is new to me.
Yeah. Lance got to experience this.
Well, no, I didn't know you were going to take over the world with hacky sacks.
Oh, well, yeah, that was just decided a couple days ago.
Very cool. Parties. My dream is to throw festival, we can call it, I guess, with learning experiences, workshops, people coming together intentionally to grow in small. When I say small, I mean few hundred, maybe 1,000. Getting together, having fun, collaborating, especially now, since we've been so separated. The world is in need of this, especially our communities. That's how we're going to change the world.
Yeah, they're of connection. There's only so much you can connect with through Zoom, although that is Kristen and I's major form of connection.
Karan, we're going to smuggle you down here somehow.
Okay.
Get you at a pirate party.
We will actually create a pirate ship. And we will we'll sail you across. I can't remember the lake right there on the border, but where Montana and Glacier National Park meets up in. Is it No, not Lake McDonald. There's one that splits Canada and the United States. So we'll get you on a pirate ship.
All right.
That way.
You can all just come up the coast too. I mean, we're on the West Coast, so like, I don't know. We gotta go find a lake that we don't know the name of. And,
that makes too much sense.
Yeah.
They would be expecting that.
They would be, that's too predictable.
Although you could go in the ocean instead of a lake.
Just wade in the water across the border on the Pacific. They won't notice.
They won't notice. I'm sure no one's patrolling that.
No.
So how would you guys recommend our listeners to go about starting their own pirate life and taking small, bold actions? That was a great way to start.
Find out where you see a lack of something.
In their life or in the world, or?
Very good question. Both. Start with your life. If you want to change the world, you need to change yourself. Something like that. Lao's Su, or I don't know, some Chinese proverb. Somebody way more intelligent, linguistic than me. Start with yourself. Fix yourself.
Yeah. I agree on starting on the personal level, and the way that I would word it is start to question yourself.
Ooh, good one.
Like, start questioning everything. Like, let yourself go to that far into the spectrum where nothing makes sense anymore, and go there, because that's where it starts, right? Typically, we wait until the Mack truck moment until we go, okay, something's going on, whatever. And instead, start with where you're at and start questioning. And if you don't know where to, if you have difficulties with that, find a podcast, find a book, find anybody that's talking about this stuff, and just start somewhere. All you have to do is start, and then trust from there, right? If in a perfect world, I imagine everyone reaching out to a guide or a mentor, or someone that they know who has been through a similar process, and start picking their brains, and just simply get started. And then from there, you can start to show up in the world, because I'll speak on my experience, which was I saw all this stuff going on in the world that I wanted to change and fix and be the savior. And I never quite had the drive to do it. I noticed it. I didn't like it. And I was like, something's wrong. Someone should do something about it. Somebody else. And then once I started down my own journey, it became more apparent. It was like, oh, by starting here first, I start to get a better framework of how I operate. Now I can better show up in the world to be of service, right? Instead of continuing to sacrifice my damn self for the sake of others, I can now be of service because I better understand where people are at, and how to meet them where they're at, and how to communicate. And also, it's also led to a lot of acceptance, right? Accepting myself where I'm at, accepting other people where they're at. And but get started. That's it.
I would like to elaborate on that. Very true. Spot on, Sean, as always. Question everything. And that's a big thing for military individuals, because you're always taught to do what I say, no questions asked, because they want you to shut up and go be a bullet sponge. I was a bullet sponge. I was really bad at it. Thank God.
Thankfully.
Thankfully.
So when you get out, any veterans that listening to this, question everything, and be prepared to be wrong, and be okay with it.
Yeah. And I'm going to steal the next question from Kristen and leave the last one for her, because I've read it and I already can't stop laughing. So the next question, just where can our listeners go and find more about you guys and what you're doing?
You're laughing about that question?
No, the next one.
The Rising Warrior on Instagram. At this point, depending on when this comes out, we don't have a website yet. we're still in beta. That's okay.
Mhm.
The Rising Warrior on Instagram, on Facebook. My personal Instagram is I am Lance Davis, separated by like periods or something. I don't know. Instagram.
Instagram.
Meh.
Yeah, Instagram and Facebook as well for me at Sean_Lazio. Yeah, that's I'm posting a lot of personal content as well on top of what we're doing with the Rising Warrior. So it's talking about a lot of the same concepts, and it's been if you're curious about getting started, go read some of my posts. Like we can start there because I'm stepping into my wizardry and speaking about life as I'm experiencing it instead of keeping it back. And so if you want to taste, just go read some of my posts. And if anything resonates, like perfect, shoot me a message. I'd be happy to chat.
Cool.
All right. So our final question before we sign off, gentlemen, do you know any good pirate jokes? Lance.
Sean, do you know any? Okay, I'll go. I'll speak softly and slowly so you can look it up on your phone. Okay. How did Captain Hook die?
I don't know.
Oh.
He got distracted while wiping on the toilet.
Oh no.
Wow.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, come on. Are there really any high quality pirate jokes? Okay.
And we always have one in reserve, and I'm gonna let Kristen tell it because it's making me laugh for like 3 questions.
I did put 2 down, so
The first one.
Okay.
We need to hear Sean's. Sean, do you have one?
Well, he's I think he's Googling.
Yes, I found a really good one.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
let's hear it.
Why don't pirates go to the strip clubs?
Ooh.
Why?
Because they already have all the booty.
Wow.
All right, are you ready for the one Karan's been laughing at?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm excited.
What did the first mate see down the toilet?
Fuck, I don't know.
The captain's log.
Yes.
I get it.
Oh, that's good.
Poop and farts
you-
is always funny. I don't care how old you are or who you are. Always
If you
funny.
guys-
Well done.
If you watch this on YouTube, you can see me start laughing about 12 minutes ago. John's talking about some very, serious things, and I'm like, Captain's log. I should have pre-read that.
Even
Awesome.
better.
Well, this has been so good to have you guys on and have this talk. I think it's really, I know it's really important work that you guys are starting, and I'm really looking forward to see where it takes you.
Ditto.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us
Yeah,
on.
thank
It's
you.
been a blast.
Lots of fun. All
Cool. I'll see you guys when the borders open.
right.
Or before.
Perfect.
Or before, or when you smuggle me across.
Yep.
There you go.